before the show starts when we're live. Hi.
Yo, what's up? What's up?
I like how often I'll be like, okay, we're starting the video, and the people who watch the video, this is the first thing they see, and we all go, "Ooh."
Yeah. At least you do the courtesy. I don't know if this is like this with you when you do shows with Scott Johnson.
Yeah.
Scott Johnson has a habit of starting the video before he calls people.
Oh, yeah. No, I've noticed that. I'm aware of that.
And it took me a few times where I was like telling him personal stories that I didn't want out there. But here's the problem with Scott. He's starting the video before, fine, right? If that's just what he does.
Sure.
He's also so polite that he doesn't want to
interrupt you.
Conversation. Yeah. So I'm basically doing the the scene from Silicon Valley where he thinks he's talking to the PR agent or talking to the reporter for like 20 minutes, and then I see people commenting about it in the chat room, and I'm like, are we live?
Are we live?
Are we live? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those things. Always assume the mic's on, I guess. That's what they say.
By the way, did you watch Preacher?
Did I watch what?
Preacher.
No, I haven't watched it yet. I was about to watch it last night, and I got sucked into Uncharted again.
Get it in your life, man.
All right, I will.
By the way, your audio just went to crap.
Is it still crap?
It was crap 2 seconds ago.
Weird. Okay. Well, I told Roger to note that, and if it happens, we'll go back and listen to the recorded audio. That'll tell us if it's actually in my mic system or if it's just the internet. If it's the internet, there's not as much we can do about it.
Not a whole lot.
All right, here we go. You guys ready?
Yep.
Let's do it.
If you would like to donate to the Daily Tech News Show, simply go to dailytechnewsshow.com/donate. Donate via Patreon monthly or just once via Bitcoin or PayPal. If you want a t-shirt, go to slashloot.com. Thank you.
This is the Daily Tech News for Thursday, May 26th, 2016. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me as he does on Thursdays, Mr. Justin Robert Young is here. And Justin, thank you for filling in tomorrow as well. Back-to-back DTNS.
Don't thank me yet, Tom. I could very well jackknife this entire operation into a ditch.
That's what Roger keeps saying, too. And I'm like, hey, thanks for covering everything tomorrow. He's like, don't thank me yet. You guys are going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
No. Listen, I've hosted the show before, and I'll be happy to host it again. And we will be joined by my good friend and tech insider boss, Steve Kovac. So it'll be a fun time.
It's going to be good stuff. Len Peralta will be here tomorrow. But that's tomorrow. Let's talk about today. We've got a really interesting story out of the Financial Times we're going to discuss in a minute about Netflix and Apple and the purchasing by one of the other. I'll leave you in suspense which one would buy which.
Yeah.
Not really. But yeah, also apparently Apple took some meetings with Time Warner, not the cable Time Warner, but the one that owns HBO. So that'll be interesting to talk about as well. Let's start off with the headlines. Entrepreneur Peter Thiel, co-founder and former CEO of PayPal. He's among the Max Levchin, Elon Musk triumvirate that founded PayPal. Thiel told the New York Times, yes, he has been funding Hulk Hogan, a.k.a. Terry Bollea's lawsuit against Gawker, as a way of fighting back for people the company has published articles about. Thiel said, quote, it's less about revenge and more about specific deterrence. He says he has also financed other cases, although he wouldn't give any names.
Peter Thiel is allowed to spend his money the way that he wants. Gawker obviously is a enterprise that very deliberately rides the lines of what is appropriate or in good taste. They are a shamelessly cash for access organization, which in and of itself is in a gray area of journalistic integrity. I believe that this is a very interesting story if you build a wall around it. However, the massive earth-shaking caterwauling that we are seeing today about it is something that can only be created when the media does its favorite thing, which is talk about itself.
Yeah. Listen, this is the top story because I have a safety net around my own choices of headlines. I don't just pick the headlines I like. I have a system to catch things that maybe I have a prejudice against or maybe I'm undervaluing by accident, which is I look at several different sources. And almost all of my sources pegged this thing as the top story of the day, but I think it has to do with what you just said, Justin, which is media and technology both are overvaluing this story because it's about them. Yeah, it's kind of a tech story because it involves Gawker and it involves the founder of PayPal, and Thiel is a huge entrepreneur and investor in Silicon Valley. But I don't know that it's really the top story of the day, because one of my signals is our subreddit, which granted isn't entirely representative of the audience, but there's 6,000 people in there and there's usually 30 or 40 votes on a story. And it isn't even submitted, or if it was submitted, it didn't bubble up onto the page.
Yeah, I mean, just all right. Final word on this. If you want to get freaked out about Peter Thiel entering into this kind of relationship with random defendants to specifically finance their ability to take up the suit that they want to file against Gawker, as opposed to just taking a settlement, then you need to understand that it is exactly just that. These are people that feel that they have been wronged by Gawker. Peter Thiel comes to them and says that he is going to continue to allow them to run the case that they would like to run in a perfect world. This is such a very specific case that is now being made into so much because of the communities that it intersects. And again, like I said on Twitter, the only thing that I ever want to read in any of these pearl-clutching think pieces is why are we not questioning why Hulk Hogan did not drop the belt clean against Sting in 1997 Starrcade. If you will not ask the hard questions, then I will not take your think piece seriously.
Get to the real story, America.
Why do they have to restart the count? They built it up for a year. Moving on. PayPal announced iOS and Android users must upgrade to version 6 of PayPal's mobile app between June 3rd and June 30th. In addition, PayPal will no longer support apps for Windows Phone, BlackBerry, and the Amazon Kindle Fire. In a post on the PayPal website, VP of Global Consumer Product and Engineering, Joanna Lambert, said Windows Phone could still access PayPal through the mobile web browser, and BlackBerry users could use the BBM app to send peer-to-peer payments. Let me ask you this, Tom. Is, in this world of ever-expanding platforms, closing down certain ways to access your service, especially for something like money transferring, a positive security move, something that you would want to see more and more? Is, hey, listen, if it's going to be ill-repaired, if it's going to be loosely updated, then it's better to close it down when it's a vital service like money.
Yeah, that is a reasonable defense of why PayPal would say, you know what, we need our engineers focused on fewer things to do them better. And Windows Phone's market share has been dropping below 1%. BlackBerry's has been below 1% for a while. So that makes sense. The Kindle Fire is the one that caught my eye here. And when I say it makes sense, I get where if you're one of the people who has a Windows Phone or BlackBerry, you're incensed by this, and I understand that. But the Kindle Fire, you have to do a little more work to put it on the Kindle Fire, but it is an Android app.
Yeah.
You have already got an Android app. It's not that much more work compared to developing it. And I guess you could make the same argument for BlackBerry because they can do Android apps now as well. So they really are just saying, you know what? Forget it all. We're just going to focus. There's two main platforms that cover 99% of the users out there, 95%, I guess, probably, or around there. Let's focus on that because this is important to not get wrong.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I'm very, very curious to see whether or not that becomes more of a more of a concept moving forward for certain companies to say, hey, listen, let's just take these things off the table if we're not going to give it the kind of attention that it very much deserves.
Yeah, and it is telling that we are in a 2 operating system world too.
Yeah.
For mobile.
Oh, certainly so.
HP announced 4 products in their new Omen line. They put out some other products previously under the Omen brand, but they're really getting serious about it being a high-end gaming line. 2 laptops are black with red highlights around the keys and on the lid, and The Verge noted that the diamond that is the logo on the lid is very reminiscent of Voodoo PC, which HP acquired in 2006. The laptop models come in a 15.6-inch version that starts with Core i3 processors and the 17.3-inch version, which starts with i5 processors. Both of these can be configured to have i7 processors, up to 16 gigabytes of RAM, a GTX 965M GPU, and a 4K display. 15.6 inches will start at $900, and the 17.3 inches begin at $980. Both of those will be available July 10th. They've also got a couple other products coming in August, a 32-inch Quad HD monitor and the Omen desktop. That one will feature the NVIDIA Founders Edition 1080 graphics card and some water cooling, although we don't have prices for either of those.
Very excited for this. We're actually in the market for a gaming laptop because we are not doing enough streaming from our one studio. We now want to build a satellite studio in a closet and be able to stream while others are streaming. It's going to be a very stream heavy household.
You know, when you got as many streamers in your household as you do, which is to say you have two, although I guess your birds might start streaming.
Don't
eventually.
sell Dr. Bird short.
Yeah.
He's
building
building steam on Twitch. An era, my friends, Redditors, countrymen, has finally come to an end. The once seemingly eternal bond of Imager and Reddit is no more. Reddit is rolling out an image upload feature starting in 50 communities. Images will have a max of 20 megabytes and GIFs a max of 100. By the way, the max on Imager for GIFs is 200 megabytes. Reddit says that they are grateful to Imager, and of course, people can still choose to use Imager or anybody else for image hosting. Reddit, a notoriously fickle community. What do you think that the reaction
change? You've changed something? How dare you? No, the headlines for these really made me laugh. Like Imager and Reddit break up. The end of Reddit and Imager. And in fact, nothing has changed in the relationship of Reddit and Imager. It was an informal alliance from the beginning. It was just like, oh well, yeah, let's just link to all our stuff on Imager because that seems cool. And people were already starting to bring out the pitchforks against Imager because they've been starting to put advertisements more heavily on the pages and monetize things more often. So Reddit allowing you to upload an image directly to Reddit is a risk for Reddit because now they're responsible for those images and they have to apply their policies to them. But it will make things easier for you because you won't have to go upload it somewhere else if you don't want to. All in all, I think it's maybe, I hate to call any change a good thing for fear of getting ripped apart, but maybe it's not a bad thing. I don't know.
Downvoted.
Downvoted? No, there you go. That's the end of that.
Change.
Lenovo also ended its financial year and has allowed us to know its earnings. They lost $128 million on revenue of $44.9 billion. That's down 3% year over year, although they had a bright spot in Q4 where they saw a profit of $180 million, which was up 80% year over year, so maybe things will turn around this year. Part of that yearly loss had to do with expenses of acquiring Motorola. That's going to be a drag on your finances. They spent a lot of money, and Lenovo said that the handset division of Motorola, quote, did not meet expectations. Tech in Asia points out that Lenovo reported mobile shipments in China fell 85% from the third to the fourth quarter, and Lenovo dropped out of the top 5 in China thereof, and they're only number 4 in India, although at least they're not falling out there.
So fascinating to see kind of the empires rise and fall, right? Now Motorola on its second company that is currently disappointing after being a major acquisition, and Lenovo itself feeling the drag of that it's so easy to forget that Motorola is such a gigantic company in the development of mobile technology.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I was reading this earlier today. I was thinking, if you come to me in, let's say, 1995 and say IBM is buying Motorola, that's titanic.
It's
right?
huge.
And Lenovo essentially owns most of what IBM was in that era at this point. And of course, Motorola split up into Motorola Mobility and Motorola Solutions, so it's a smaller version of what it used to be as well. But it is interesting to see how this has gone. And it looks like Lenovo is starting to have problems bucking the trend. Remember, for years, they were the PC company that could increase sales while everyone else was decreasing. And they thought maybe they could do the same with handsets. And for a while, it looked like maybe they had a start on that. But it's stronger headwinds than they expected.
In what can only be seen as an ominous portent for the Warriors playing in Oracle Arena tonight in an elimination game, after 3 days of deliberation, a jury ruled that Android does not infringe on Oracle-owned copyrights by re-implementing 37 Java APIs. The decision finds that Google had fair use of the APIs after all.
Yeah, so Google originally got the court to say you can't copyright an API. Then a higher court said, well, we think maybe you can, so go redo this trial. This trial was the redo, and the jury said, well, okay, maybe you can copyright an API, but the use Google made of those 37 Java APIs was fair. They mounted and successfully defended themselves as having had a fair use. So whenever you hear a fair use is a defense, this is an example of that.
So there was a former incarnation of the Tom Merritt News Experience, TM, wherein a prominent segment was the patent wars, and you guys covered them dutifully. Is this the dying days? Like, because a lot of these lawsuits here are you even kind of got some flack with this lawsuit that this is Larry Ellison literally just carrying a torch for his friendship with Steve Jobs, and that this is maybe just him doing it for the sake of doing it. Are we gone? Is Merry Christmas? War is over?
I don't think so. I mean, and this isn't a patent war. It's a copyright war, but it definitely falls into that broader category of the big guys fighting it out. I think what's happened is a lot of the patents around mobile phones, those wars have been settled.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily want to declare peace quite yet, but Microsoft has come to terms with people, and Google has dropped some things with Samsung, and everybody's starting to make nice because that market is maturing. That means that we're gearing up for new patent wars around the Internet of Things, virtual reality, self-driving cars. Like, once something else starts to rise to the prominence that mobile phones got to, that's when it's worth everybody pulling out their patents and saying, I've got a bigger stack of them than you do.
And specifically that idea of unlimited profits, which now we don't quite think that mobile phones, we know what the trajectory of mobile phones are, and as Silicon Valley or technology in general does not like the things that they can chart. They like the things that they possibly cannot chart and could multiply and multiply and multiply forever.
A report from the U.S. Government Accountability Office is getting lots of headlines on your local news, I'm sure. It notes that the unit in charge of nuclear weapons for the United States military uses 8-inch floppy disks on an IBM Series 1 circa 1976. Other agencies, including Treasury, use systems at least 50 years old as well. And GAO notes that $61.2 billion was spent in 2015 to maintain outdated systems, while only $19.2 billion went to upgrades. Now, the Pentagon says those floppies are going to be phased out in nuclear command by the end of 2017, and that systems in general will be fully modernized by 2020. Pentagon spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Valerie Henderson told the AFP, this system remains in use because, in short, it still works. And before we comment on it, this was starting to get talked around about, thanks to Michael Kepler for bringing it up in our Slack. Gadget Chaser, who actually does work in the industry there, had a comment to say, trust me when I say that when a system 40 years old is working, keep using it. The billions they say are spent are most likely spent trying to procure or recreate hardware that is no longer manufactured. But whatever they're spending on that, triple or quadruple it to develop, test, validate, and implement and install new systems. Because, and he has he had a longer conversation about it, but he said, lives are on the line with this. So you don't just upgrade to a new thing without being absolutely sure that it is bulletproof, both figuratively and literally, I would assume.
As somebody who had his fairly delicately set up streaming and switching rig almost completely disrupted by a surprise update to Windows 10, I could never be more excited and proud to be an American that our military is using gigantic, antiquated technology if it is indeed still working. Now, if the report was, hey, during drills and testings, people weren't able to find data and things weren't able to be mobilized at the right speed, and that's a result of our less than modernized technology, that's a different story. If it's just pointing out the fact that they use it, then that to me is just fine. whatever. If it works, keep going.
Yeah, I mean, it's all fun, and I do it too, to complain about waste of tax dollars. And there may be waste going on here, but it's not the obvious waste of they're using old technology and spending way too much money to keep it up. There are good reasons why they have been doing that. It's the same reason that NASA, when they send probes to Mars, uses technology that's 10 or 15 years old, because they want to make sure it works.
Microsoft, Facebook, and Telefonica subsidiary Telxus announced Thursday that an agreement to build the Ameria transatlantic cable across the Atlantic Ocean. The 6,600-kilometer cable will connect Virginia Beach with the U.S. and Bilbao, Spain, at a capacity of 160 terabits per second. Also, this week in subsea cable news, a Quintillion Subsea Holdings has acquired Arctic Fiber, which is implementing the first branch of a project that will eventually connect Japan to the UK by laying cable in the melting ice of the Northwest Passage.
Yeah, it was too expensive to try to drill through the ice before, but now that it's all slushy up there, they're like, hey, I think we should start doing this. So they're connecting Nome, Alaska next. I think that's the next phase, but that's interesting. The other thing that's interesting about this Microsoft Facebook thing, they're not the only ones. If you haven't heard, Google is funding cross-sea cables both in the Atlantic and the Pacific, I believe. Facebook and Amazon regularly get in on funding these cables, and the conclusion you might want to jump to is, well, this is good for them because they have cloud services that work worldwide and they need more capacity to make those more reliable. And that's not wrong. That is one of the reasons they do it. But somebody who works in the industry tipped me off to the fact that another reason they do this, which you may not have thought of, is that if they are putting more cables, there is therefore more capacity, which brings down the price of getting your swaps if you own one cable and you want access to another cable implemented, so that over the course of time, it's going to save them money to pay to have a new cable put in because it costs them less to use the other cables now.
That's fascinating.
I know. It is interesting. So expect to see the people who have the cash to do it, the Googles and such of the world, to do that sort of thing. Finally, Johann Keen and Professor Sami Hadaden from the Leibniz University of Hanover presented their work at the IEEE International Conference on Robotics and Automation in Sweden last week. Now, that makes them sound like respectable scientists doing serious work, which they are. But what if I put their research this way, Justin? Keen and Hadaden want to teach robots to feel pain.
What?
The researchers have developed a nervous robot tissue model that is inspired by the human skin structure. 3 classes of pain, light, moderate, and severe, are meant to prevent in order. Light is to prevent any kind of harm. Medium is to prevent collisions from running into something. And severe is meant to prevent actual damage to the robot itself.
Fascinating on 1.5 million different levels, and especially in a world where we are going to rely on robots more and more and more. We continue to rely on robots today, and you can only expect that to continue to develop. This is brilliant, right? You want a robot that you rely on to preserve itself and to base it on our human model of to lack a more sophisticated analogy, putting your hand on a hot stove and realizing that that's something that you don't want to do anymore, is brilliant. Another robot learns to be something more than a machine.
Well, and obviously our chat room having the reaction that I imagine many of you listening are having, which is this is why they will turn against us, because we introduced them to pain. But remember, pain is our way of preventing ourselves from being damaged. And the question then becomes, what does feeling pain mean? I mean, this really is just a sensor system that detects a certain kind of pressure or certain kind of behavior and removes the robot from harm. So maybe it's not unpleasant. I mean, could we actually improve on pain, Justin?
Yeah.
The signal says move your arm, but it feels good.
Well, I mean, certainly. I mean, I think that this is. I have no idea why this is in any way controversial. Like you would want a robot. If you're buying a robot, You don't want the robot to, oops, it accidentally fell in the grain thresher, right? Like,
Yeah.
oops.
Had its hand in the grain thresher, was like, I don't know, my hand seems to be disappearing. Yeah. No, you want it to pull that thing out.
No, of course you do. I mean, this is like the hack 80s comedian response to any robot story is they're going to overrun us. Like, well, of course they will eventually, but we don't have to say that with every robot story, do we?
Apparently, yes. We still do. We'll let you know. We'll keep you informed right here on Daily Tech News Show at what point society finally gets over that reaction to robot stories. Thanks to all those who submitted things on our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them there as well. Kyle the janitor has one in there today, and we call him the janitor because he keeps the spam out of there. T-Glass 1976, Abatuela Condolce, Mr. Anthropology, Flobama, The Fixer, Captain Kipper, and more. Join them, at least, if nothing else, to vote at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com, and that is a look at the headlines. All right, the Financial Times reported Thursday that sources are telling it that late last year, Apple SVP Eddie Q met with Time Warner's head of corporate strategy, Olaf Olofsson, to talk about an acquisition. Now, we're not talking Time Warner Cable. I know that gets confusing. We're talking about Time Warner that owns HBO and TBS and Turner, TNT, etc. They were discussing an acquisition because Apple is apparently taking this tactic as an alternative to developing their own streaming service. It did not pass beyond the preliminaries, according to Financial Times, but unnamed bankers told Financial Times that Apple is now interested in acquiring a streaming service. And of course, immediately everyone's minds go to Netflix. Interestingly enough, Time Warner also last year was apparently rumored to be in talks to sink a stake in Hulu. At that time, Hulu was valued at $5 billion. Now, we can assume maybe they're worth a couple billion more by now. Netflix is currently estimated to be worth about $43 billion, and Time Warner would have been estimated to be worth $80 billion. Of course, Apple could afford to buy all of them because it has $230 billion in cash on hand. Justin, would Apple buy Netflix? Would Netflix let them?
Well, let's dial it back 2 clicks to go back to this Time Warner rumor. Depending on what Apple wants to do with a streaming service, Time Warner is a very interesting purchase. Not only does it get them into a high-end model with HBO. HBO has been very, very good about HBO Go, HBO Now, creating, although they've just replaced their head of programming to maybe get a little bit more consistent in the kind of programming that they are creating, because they've definitely lost ground to companies like Netflix and Amazon. That also gets them into live sports with TNT, as I'm sure Eddie Q, who is a regular courtside at Warriors games, probably knows very, very well the power of, as well as TBS, which continues to be a hot property for comedy. The question of whether or not they would buy Netflix is kind of contingent on 2 different ideas. Number one, do they want to keep Netflix? And B, do they want to keep it exclusive to another product? Like, let's say that Apple does want to get into a streaming service. There is right now, I believe, so many streaming services that we are awash in them. For every major must-have, like a Hulu or a Netflix for people without a cable subscription, you've got a jillion little CISOs, and that's before you get into what
and
we're
Maker
doing.
And Comic-Con and at DiamondClub.tv, right?
Or Patreon, right? That Patreon could very easily get into the world of saying, hey, look, you're already running an RSS feed that alerts you. You already have the ability to schedule stuff or at least alert your audience to it. Now you can plug this into a larger thing. So what I'm saying ham-handedly is that I believe the next phase, and what I would like to see Apple get in, is an aggregation system that maybe has some built-in value adds like Netflix, which at this point is a no-brainer for anybody who doesn't have a cable subscription, to just be able to plug in everything that you want. Because for Apple, they've got everything else that you need, including listed podcast content. They have the ability to put hardware that specifically matches up with exactly the service that they want to show. And I think that Netflix is a better pick for that than, let's say, Hulu, because Netflix understood you just need to make the show. Make the show. Make the movie. Make the thing that makes that all you got to do is once a month click on something that you like and that is exclusive to that platform, and you'll say, thank God that I had that platform. Netflix gets that. Hulu, although they've had great originals, is RDO, essentially. If they lose their deals with the people that are supplying them the network shows, they are worth way, way, way less. They're worth what they're worth now because they have a relationship with so many paying customers, and they have credit card numbers, and they have an ability to keep that revenue stream rolling. Apple doesn't necessarily need that, or at least that's not the same kind of value, because Apple already has that and more with so many people that have a regular paying relationship with Apple.
Hulu's been on the block before, though, and Netflix hasn't. And this is why I'm sticking to the idea of Hulu, because Apple's already investing money in originals. So, yes, they get better originals, and they get a more experienced team of originals makers, perhaps, arguably, if they acquire Netflix. But with Hulu, they get what they haven't been able to get in all of their negotiations yet, which is access to the major broadcasters' content. They get those deals if they acquire Hulu, or at least they get a better seat at that table. And Hulu only lacks the level of cloud-based management that Netflix has, because that's the other thing they get if they buy Netflix is, holy crap, we have somebody who's really good at delivering content over the internet. We could use that help with our iCloud services. So what about this, Justin? And I'm just going off the reservation now. Forget Netflix, because I don't think Reed Hastings sells. Now, I know Richard St. Vilas said Investopedia back on May 9th had an excellent summary of like, you know what? If Apple comes in at a 35% premium of the Netflix stock, then yeah, Reed Hastings has to sell. He would be wrong not to. They can make him an offer that he can't refuse, and I guess that would be something around $53 billion. Like if Apple comes in and just drops that amount of cash, which they absolutely could, maybe Reed just has to sell whether he wants to or not. But I don't know that Apple does that. I don't think Reed Hastings wants to sell. He wants to be Tim Cook, Jeff Bezos. He doesn't want to work for them. So what if Apple buys Hulu? They come in and say, look, I know you guys took it off the table, but we'll give you a sweet offer. We'll give you a premium offer. And then buys BAM, which we know BAM, which used to be Major League Baseball Advanced Media, is on the table as well for someone to buy. And they get a beautiful streaming service company that brings in revenue and is very good at cloud management, as well as the premium content that comes with Hulu.
It's a beautiful world you paint.
It is.
Some say it's the best world. But I just don't know if Apple values being again contingent on deals they did not set with the major networks to be a value add for them. I think that they still think that they can make those deals. Any deal that Hulu has with the major networks, they can probably make those deals. They want a better deal. They want a different deal. Or else they probably would have made them. And if the networks won't give Apple the Hulu deal, then who's to say that once Apple buys Hulu, that the networks say, guess what, homie, price on the package is going up. Now you need to pay X, Y, and Z. I also don't know whether or not Apple wants to be in the ad sales business in the way that Hulu's in the ad sales business. And the freemium model that Hulu runs is something that they necessarily want to get into. I love the idea of them buying BAM. I love the idea of them saying, hey, let's actually get serious about streaming. However, I know you want to take Netflix off there, and I know that you very, very rightly believe that Reed Hastings does not want to sell because he wants to be Tim Cook. He wants to be the big guy. But Tim Cook he is a different leader than Steve Jobs. I don't think Tim Cook cares as much about being viewed as the dude. He is somebody that, when he brought on Jimmy Iovine, he wanted Jimmy Iovine to get the big shine as like, oh, look, we brought in this big mind that is now going to shepherd us going forward. He is somebody that gives a lot of time, in their big product demonstrations to other people to elevate them, including Eddie Q in his untucked shirt and his messy hair. I wonder if, and this is something that I look at for both Netflix and Tesla, people with obviously gigantic CEOs that have massive personalities, is their pitch to them is say, hey, run what you run, but be what Steve Jobs was to Disney here at Apple. Be somebody that guides things along, that makes the company better. We need your leadership in the same way that Disney and ABC was benefited by Steve being the largest shareholder after Pixar. This is something that we want here for you. That we want to just take money off the table. You now can just do exactly what you want. We need your leadership here. I think that is something that if Netflix was ever going to sell, that's the pitch that would work. As opposed to,
it might work because remember, Ted Sarandos is the guy who really handles the content of Netflix.
Yes.
And so maybe you appeal to Reed Hastings like, hey, you weren't always in this for the mailing of the DVDs. You were in it for the innovation and creating a cool company. And wouldn't you like to do more of that sort of thing? You may be right about that. Maybe they even groom him as a successor of some sort. I don't know.
Sure.
Anyway, it'll be interesting to see if Apple makes a move like that, and if they do, where it would come from. Let us know your theories. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com.
Well, let me just say one thing. One last thing before I move on this. If they were to do it, it would be something that would be very, very unique because they have been terrible about web services. Amazon is very good about web services. How many times we referenced that the Tom Merritt news experience TM has gone on a long time. It has probably been since you started with Buzz Out Loud that it has been said Apple's Achilles heel, as good as they are about everything else, is that their web services can do nothing but suck it through a glass straw.
Bye, bam, Apple. Bye, bam. Safe. This is like buy bonds. Hey, our pick of the day comes from Rich in lovely Cleveland, who says, my pick is a guide on how to turn a resume into a chatbot. It's been posted several places, but I first saw it on Lifehacker. Written by Esther Crawford, serves as a great way to get your foot in the door to creating chatbots in general. As someone who's never coded, unless you count Hello World in Python, I've been intimidated by some of the other easy chatbot creation services. This guide allowed me to get a bot up and running in about 40 minutes. And while you start at a pretty basic state, a simple copy of her resume bot, EstherBot, it gives you a lot of tools to explore further functionality, and services used are free for basic use. She integrates Twilio for SMS, which does cost money, but it easily works without it. I'd say if you'd ever edited a Linux config file, you would feel right at home setting up the chat dialog. And right now I'm working to replace our Office FAQ with what I've learned, and I know I've just scratched the surface. It's probably never going to allow you to set up your own learning AI conversation, but I found it interesting and accessible.
Man, I am shocked this was not written by Veronica Belmont.
I know, right? Probably will be shortly. Send your picks to us, folks. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. You can find more picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. A few messages of the day. Motang observes, if all cars were self-driving without human input, it would make a funny speed chase on a busy freeway like the 401 or the I-5 or even the parking lot known in the Inland Empire as the 91. Yeah, I can't wait for those self-driving car chases.
Oh man, I mean, talk about this is a Alex Jones monologue waiting to happen about how Big Brother is going to be shutting off your car from afar.
Bill in Huntsville points out another situation for self-driving cars to solve. There are times when traffic conditions, such as an accident or a storm, cause traffic control to have to be taken over by a human directing traffic. A human may be motioning the traffic to move when the light is red or directing the flow to a normally oncoming lane. I'd be curious to know if that's something they've tested for, that you would want the self-driving car to be able to notice, oh, there's a person out there. And when it says I can go ahead on my own, I can do that and I'll ignore the light for now.
That is fascinating.
Yeah. We also got M, who wrote, I was listening to yesterday's show and was surprised when you were discussing the Siri home device versus Apple TV versus Echo versus Google Home that nobody suggested a universal voice assistant which, just like a universal remote, could speak to all the other voice assistants for you. You just ask your UVA to order dinner, turn down the lights, and play the latest episode of Game of Thrones in the living room, and then the UVA would bark out commands to the appropriate devices like a universal remote.
Wait, this is him inventing this,
speculating.
Right?
He's like, Kickstarter link on the way. In other words, he came up with this idea, so don't steal it. But yeah, so are we going to see that? Like, basically the adium was to instant message clients?
If we continue to live in a world of fractured communities, without a doubt, 150%, that would happen. The two things are contingent: are A, these devices continue to become more and more useful, and simultaneously more and more fractured.
And R.T. Cregan in Brooklyn, New York, has some words that you, my brother Justin Robert Young, are definitely going to sing along with. RT says, my brother woke up Wednesday to find the screen of his 5-year-old work laptop black with a cursor. He had been involuntarily upgraded to Windows 10, and there was no Windows 10 driver for his old graphics card. He tried to update the graphics card, but could not because he didn't have the authorization, but he couldn't get into the machine to show his ownership. I would have had him write to you himself, but he's still cursing. There are good reasons not to upgrade to Windows 10.
If he is still dealing with that, I actually had the exact same black screen with the cursor. Keep restarting. That is the general thing with that. Apparently, they're just restarting it over and over and over again. Eventually, boots it up. There are a million great reasons to not upgrade to Windows 10. This is a song I sing, so I don't say the F word on the show. Doodle-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. You suck, Microsoft.
That is the F word fun. No, it's not. Hey, thanks, Justin Robert Young, for joining us on the show, as always. And once again, thank you for filling in. I don't even care if you ruin the show tomorrow. Thank you for filling in tomorrow. It's going to be awesome.
Listen, everybody, come on and tune in. I'm so excited to have Steve back on the show, and to be able to do it with him is going to be an absolute privilege. Come on and join us, me, Len Peralta, and Steve Kovac, talking about the news of the week, which I'm sure will just evolve into a 40-minute conversation of what Peter Thiel and Nick Denton had for lunch.
No, it's not. It's definitely not. That is the one thing it won't be. What else you got going on, though, before we let you go?
Oh man, so much stuff. Everybody go ahead and check out my sticker site. Stickers are DIAF. It is where you can get stickers that span all the projects that I do, including politics, jury, and more. Some original art from Spearmint Nitrate, including limited edition Knife Fight Captain Morgan is available right now in the current sticker pack if you buy it at Stickers or DIAF. And something that I've been reminded of is at the end of July, if you are in the Orlando area, or really anywhere in the Southeast, you should come on down to CreateCon. It's at createconvention.com. You'll be there with me, Brian Brushwood, Tom Merritt. Jenny, is Jenny coming?
Yeah, Jenny's coming.
Jenny's coming, and of course, some of your favorites when it comes to the gaming podcast space, including Willie Dills, Gregory Garrett, Vine Zerl, and Jocelyn Moffat, making her way from north of the wall to have a great time. It's a single-day convention if you've ever been to, and I know there's so many Daily Tech News Show fans that were used to going to the Nerdtacular convention out in Salt Lake City, but I'm going to let you know, this is going to be a very unique experience because who knows whether or not this thing will happen again. This is a super fun one-day convention where it's going to be super small. It's going to be a great time. I hope everybody comes on out to it. CreateConvention.com.
Yeah, we're going to be doing DTNS the day before in Orlando because I'll be there. Rounding up as many people as possible. So you might, I don't know, look around the hotel lobby if you come. You might see us doing it. Thank you for supporting the show. You guys are the best. DailyTechNewsShow.com/support. We get all of our support to do the show from you. So if you're willing to help us out, head to DailyTechNewsShow.com/support. Quick thought from Gadget Chaser, by the way, who commented earlier about the Pentagon spending on tech. He sent another email about another topic, and at the end of the email he said, to everyone in the audience who has lost a family member, or as in my case, brothers and sisters in arms, U.S. or allied, you are not forgotten this weekend to honor you. So Memorial Day coming up on Monday. We won't have a show. We'll just have headlines on that day, but wanted to pass along that expression as well. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. You can give us a call, 512-593-2459. Catch the show live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And visit our website, dailytechnewsshow.com. As we said, Justin Robert Young and Steve Kovac with Len Peralta tomorrow. Talk to you Monday.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Another fine show.
A show for the ages.
Show for all ages. It was an all-ages show.
And all ages. For friends. For life.
Good show.
Drinks
Good
for
show.
all my friends.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Because you had the audio issue 3 times during the episode.
Oh, lovely. That's just what I want to hear when I come off a show on a high.
It's not what you want. It's not what you deserve to hear.
No,
It's
I
what
know.
you needed to hear.
I'll get those time codes from you in a moment. Let's get the headlines first, though.
Headlines. We start off at the top with the Tom Merritt news experience. Hulk smash.
Which will not be the headline that we use.
Hulk smash. Sue. More robot pain. More robot gain. Reddit says Imager out of here. Apple's acquisition binge. Amazon, Windows Phone, and BlackBerry don't have pals anymore. Hulu Flicks, iFlix.
Amazon and Windows Phone and BlackBerry can't even pay for pals anymore.
No. Government punches hole in floppy to use other side for free. When will floppies truly flop? At least the U.S. nuclear team doesn't have to worry about Windows 10.
You seem uncertain about all of these.
I'm trying to find something that kind of succinctly gets the main, the Apple. I'm trying to find something.
Apple buy BAM, please.
Nothing really grabs me by the lapels.
Well, you're wearing a T-shirt.
It's partly the reason why.
Government punches a hole in floppy to use other side for free.
I just said that.
I know. I know you did.
Yeah. It's just
making me giggle.
I don't think you could do that with 7-inch or 8-inch floppies. I don't remember.
Who flicks? iFlix?
Now we know R2D2 felt pain.
I'm liking Shane's today.
You're liking Shane's?
Yeah. Justin, any of these catching your ear?
Nope.
Who flicks? iFlix.
All right, we're gonna have to make a call.
If it works, don't nuke it. That's pretty snappy, but that's just one of the news items.
I think that's fine, though. Does the world really need another "Will Apple buy"
No.
title?
Okay.
Right? I think
Now let's do the if it works.
because this is such. We. Oh man, I forgot to get into my favorite conversation that nobody is interested in except me, which is who leaked this information, which is almost certainly Time Warner. In the case.
You mean about the? I thought you were still talking about the Pentagon stuff. Yeah,
It's like Time Warner. It's like, whoa, they got an axe to grind somewhere.
Yeah. But yeah, it's all right. So here's my favorite thing in the world is whenever you have any of these knowledge of the situation, somebody talk to somebody where it's very hard that anybody would know about what happened in a room with 2 different people. And this goes news stories, nonfiction books, all of it, right? Ask yourself who in that room, assuming that the writer is not making it up, right?
Right.
Who in that room or people close to that room talk to the reporter? And in the case of the Netflix thing or the Time Warner thing, almost certainly Time Warner, right?
Oh, Apple didn't. Yeah. It's possible that somebody who wasn't in the room at Apple heard about it and then told someone about it at a bar, right? But I think you're right. I think it's much more likely that somebody at Time Warner went to Financial Times.
Because they want to seem bigger. That makes them seem bigger.
And
Apple doesn't
if
need
they're
to have
still
rumors
interested
they're
in an
gonna buy things.
acquisition, like maybe they couldn't come to an agreement with Apple about it, but they're like, hey, but we still want somebody to buy us. This helps drive up the price.
Yeah, or maybe it's ongoing. Maybe it's more ongoing than they let
Right.
on to the
For
the
sure.
reporter.
That's
Apple benefits none from it being out there that Eddie Q talked to somebody specifically, because again, that's how it's reported.
yeah. I mean, it's got both names, Eddie Q and Olaf Olafsson. They were in the room with their, I'm sure other people were in the meeting. It wasn't just those two, but I'm not saying Olaf Olafsson leaked it. Let's be clear.
But he's the prime suspect. Yeah, so many shenanigans.
Oh,
So many.
shenanigans.
Has that ever been the title of an episode? Shenanigans?
Shenanigans. I got a call from Jenny Josephson yesterday.
Oh, what did she say? Did Roger ruin the show?
It was a 4-second conversation, and actually it was preceded preceded by a text that said, "Now is your chance to add to the programming of Marketplace." And I said, "Sure, give me a call." And she just said, "Terry Bollea or Terry Bollea?" Terry Bollea. And she said, "Thank you."
That's amazing. I love that story. Because she knew. She's like, I know who will know this.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Sources say it's Bolea.
Yeah. No, it's Bollea.
Belay that order.
So was one of your time codes 2430, Roger?
24:30. I just did it based on the clock, unfortunately.
Oh.
They were all in the news stories. An hour and 41 minutes.
It literally just
at
happened.
1:41, right before the Lenovo
it
news
doesn't help me
story.
141.
Oh, here we go. Right now. Right now.
Okay, that doesn't help me either because I'm not recording.
So right before the Lenovo story, you're talking to Justin. It did it then.
Where's the Lenovo story?
So it's it started at 1:41, like the actual time.
Okay, so maybe 41 minutes in. Or wait, no, 11 minutes in. Sorry.
And then
right,
6
I'm gonna
minutes.
listen. Hold
6
on, I'm
minutes.
listening.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's not there in the recording.
That's good. Check 6 minutes after while you guys are talking about.
I just heard it from you.
Weird.
What do you mean? What do you mean? You just heard?
Now, I heard something like vroom, vroom,
Yeah.
vroom. So it's in the Hangout.
Hangout.
It definitely went out to people because people were commenting on it in the
Yeah.
chat room.
No, I get it. It's probably going to be in the video then, but it won't be in the audio.
Because
Cool.
you recorded the audio locally.
Well, because my audio is recorded separately. Yeah, exactly. If it happens to you guys, it would get in the audio because I'm just getting your audio from the Hangout. Huh. All right. So I wonder if it's just a Hangout thing that will go away because they'll fix it, or if it's because I'm using studio mode.
I've never heard this type of distortion before, though.
Well, yeah. No, I know. That doesn't mean they didn't change something in their implementation on the back end.
No, I'm not saying they did, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
it's not like traditionally when people went artifacty on the audio.
Yeah, so I get what you're saying. So it's probably not internet related. It's probably not connection related. It's probably codec related is what I'm guessing then. We're tracking it down. We're on the case. The gumshoes.
Yeah, it's going to end at Google. What's going to happen? We're just like, hey, can you fix this someday?
Well, the thing about these sorts of things is they don't stay broken. If it's within there, they generally, like, the next time they do an update, it goes away. Not saying that's good policy, but I'm just saying, like, it probably won't stay there forever if it happens. Maybe they'll fix it by Tuesday.
Maybe.
Maybe. They could probably just play another round of foosball instead, though.
What, do you think everything in Silicon Valley is like that show, Silicon Valley? Because it is.
Yeah.
It kind of is.
The one thing that I have that in all that useless cacophony of coverage, I think this was from the former one of the former runners of Gawker that was commenting on it, is that there is this very weird sense of self-seriousness in this area, in the Bay Area, when it comes to tech. That, like, tech has a very weird way of looking at any kind of self-coverage. And she pointed out that even Silicon Valley, like, people don't, that there is, people don't find, in Silicon Valley, I've known more people that don't find it funny because they don't find those tropes that they are making fun of funny.
Right.
Like, I've read people, like, it just, and anecdotally, totally anecdotally, like, in my Twitter feed, more people that work in tech are like, the show's not funny. I don't get it. Why is that show funny?
Yeah, well, it's the thing about making fun from the outside but being accurate versus making fun from the inside and being accurate, right? And then there's making from the outside and not being accurate. So making fun from the outside and not being accurate is when you're like, you don't actually understand, so you're just making fun of it because you don't understand it. That is not what Silicon Valley is doing. Making fun from the outside but getting it right is when you're like, this is really funny, and everyone on the inside goes, no, that's normal. And you're like, no, it's normal because you're in it, but if trust me, it's really funny. And then there's making fun from the inside, which is like, these are the jokes that are really funny because we're all involved in the system, and those aren't funny to the outside.
Yeah. I think it's pretty funny. I think the show's funny.
I think it's funny too.
I think it's really funny. I
also get that it's a cartoon, right? Like, it's not a documentary.
I mean, in the same way that Office Space is a cartoon, right?
Right. Or even The Office.
Yeah. I mean, just even with Mike Judge's properties, it's the reason why.
Oh, yeah. No, I get you. Yeah.
Hashtag hot take alert. I get so annoyed whenever people are like, oh, look, idiocracy. It's like, oh, the world's becoming idiocracy, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, dude, I thought Idiocracy was a really funny movie. But like, oh, God, it drives me up a wall when everything is like, well, look at this. Now we're becoming dumber and stupider, like in the movie. Like, especially because that movie is very weirdly nihilistic. Like, it
draws it out to the most, like, absolute conclusion. If everything was,
the reasoning why the world gets stupid is because young yuppies aren't making as many kids as, like, poor rednecks. Like, that's, like, the point of the movie, as it explains why the world is the way it is.
Yeah, it's very classist.
And it's like, okay, all right, cool beans.
Well, that is one of the, I would have to say, I don't want to say the valley, but the industry's major blind spot is its inability to kind of, if you've been in the business so long where, hey, the way you think is extraordinary and exceptional, and you have, a particularly good knack for blah, 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 I think it's really hard to kind of start stepping outside of yourself and looking at it from a perspective you haven't necessarily lived before. So, a lot of places, a lot of industries or groups are like that, though.
Yeah. Oh no.
Political groups are the most obvious ones, right? It doesn't matter what kind of political philosophy you subscribe to. You will find people within that grouping who are totally like, I don't get it. Why is that funny? Why is that even a thing?
Well, except for political groups are there to fight. right? That's why they formed, is because they want to proselytize people that can be proselytized, and they want to attack those that can't. Like, that's the point of a political group, because you want to win elections and gain influence and power. Tech's a different story, because like they have all those instincts, right? They have, you're dead right, that they have all those like, hey, protect the flag kind of instincts, but they're also trying to make Twitter, and they're also trying to make a product, and they're also trying to deal with users, and I don't know.
It's a little bit like if you've ever I have the dimmest association of what an actual medical professional feels when they watch like Grey's Anatomy or something.
Sure.
Because I was taking a first responder course in emergency medicine, and suddenly all these things started to pop up. Some of which I was like, oh, that's actually right. Like that's what they tell you to do. And then there'd be the things where like, well, no, that's not really what you would do. And of course, it annoyed the crap out of Eileen if I brought any of that up, because she's like, I'm just trying to watch the show, right?
Yeah.
And so Silicon Valley is like, if a doctor watched Scrubs and sat there and was like, well, that's not really the way hospitals work.
I mean, I'll tell you what, though. I feel like they put way more effort into being realistic than they necessarily need to be.
Right.
Like,
I think you're right.
Here's what I have found exciting about the show, is especially as they moved into their big snazzy office and everything. Like that's the world in which I inhabited for 4+ years with the Go game, was walking into these things, and I live in fear that one day we're going to get the ridiculous team building side plot at Hooli or whatever, which I'll be very excited to have happen.
I can't wait till you or Roudsville show up in Silicon Valley as a character.
Oh, if there is an orange jumpsuited person running a hilarious scavenger hunt, quote unquote, in the show, it will be the happiest day of my life. Which is not to say that the Go game is anything but top quality entertainment. It absolutely is.
No, of course. But that's the same
But
thing,
that's
right?
the
Like they can make fun of that without it trying to imply that the Go game is a bad thing.
Well, and it's like, listen, there's a salty attitude that is pervasive amongst a lot of the companies, right? And for good reason, by the way. Like there are a lot of things that are kind of silly about those companies, and there's a lot of truth to what you saw in this week's episode, which is like this natural rivalry between the salespeople and the engineering people. Like
that's not just true in Silicon Valley either. Like that's true in that one transcends boundaries, I think.
Sure. The only difference is in Silicon Valley, because the engineers rest on a higher plane because of how well they're paid and how easily they can go to other companies. Salespeople by and large are, that's still a relationship business no matter where you go. You get in because you knew somebody and that's it, and you keep selling the widget, and if you sell the most widgets, you get, a set of steak knives or something. With the engineers, it's like, listen, it's what makes everything go.
I can't wait for the start game, as BioCow has dubbed it.
Oh, the start game, I'll tell you what, it's I fell in love with Silicon Valley in the pilot when the main character, when Richard is deciding to start Pied Piper and says, let's make this company different. Let's not have voluntary yoga retreats that are actually mandatory. And I was very, very excited because I was at that moment heading to a mandatory yoga retreat.
Okay. Looks like I did a little wrong thing there in the post there. I think I've fixed it now. Thanks T2T2 for the heads up. So there, and the glitches, and he confirms the glitches are in the YouTube, which makes sense. So it's in the Hangout.
It's in the Hangout. It's in the Hangout. The call is coming from inside the Hangout.
And with that, we leave you. Goodbye, dear friends and gentle hearts. I'll see you on Tuesday. Justin, I'll see you tomorrow. So will Roger.
Yeah, man. I'll see you.